Has there been a tear in the time-space continuum in Ukraine? It would appear to be the case following a very unusual discovery on the battlefield. A German Panzer IV appears to have slipped from 1943 to the present battlefield in 2023 and been knocked out by the Russians. But don't worry, I'm only kidding about the tear-in-time theory, but the appearance of this strange tank, as recorded by Russian troops who captured it, has caused collective head-scratching all over the internet. Is it a real tank? Is it a real World War II tank? And how did it end up blown to bits in Ukraine? The Panzer IV was the mainstay of the German Army and Waffen-SS Panzer divisions during most of World War II, and many survive in various states in museums and collections all over the world. It came in several different marks, and this appears to represent a Panzer IV Ausführung H or J. In busy online discussions, a sort of consensus appears to have been reached that this tank is not a replica, but rather original with some modern additions. The obviously not original parts are as follows. The gun is a piece of iron pipe. It is missing its muzzle brake, and no breech is visible inside the turret. The tracks are a dead giveaway, of course, 1960s Soviet BMP-1 or 2 tracks. But as many people have pointed out, an awful lot of this tank appears to be original Panzer IV. For example, the final drive and its housing look legit, as do the brake shoes. The front end armor plate is pockmarked with shell hits, very old-looking shell hits, from the kinds of weapons not used today, and interestingly the steel plate has fractured in the same manner as late-war brittle German armor, and not in any way the same as a reproduction mild steel plate would do. The damage to the right front doesn't appear to be particularly new. In fact, this vehicle shows signs of an old internal explosion that blew off some of the hatches that are missing from the found wreck. An interesting theory doing the rounds on the internet is that this is an original Panzer IV, or most of it, that was deliberately destroyed by its crew at some time long ago in the past, and subsequently recovered and partially restored in Ukraine, perhaps as a private project or for a museum or a collection. It was then dragged out to the front line for use as a decoy to draw Russian fire away from some valuable Ukrainian military asset, and indeed was struck by Russian fire and then captured by ground troops. The decoy theory is not at all impossible. As I have shown in 2 previous videos, the Ukrainians have dragged World War II era T-34-85 tanks off of World War II memorials and used them as ad hoc roadblocks and decoys. As well as this definitely replica German Panther tank filmed at another position. A further theory is that this real Panzer IV was one of many wrecked World War II German Panzer IVs that were rebuilt by Czechoslovakia just after the war and later sold to Syria, who actually used them in combat in the 1960s with Israel, and it was knocked out by the Israelis on the Golan Heights. Recently, many Panzer IV wrecks have been recovered from the area for restoration, and somehow this tank ended up in Ukraine some years before the current war, before being called upon to fight again. Another theory is that this tank was a destroyed Hulk captured by the Red Army in World War II and subsequently used for target practice, hence the damage to its frontal armor, and recovered at some time from perhaps a range in the last few decades for partial restoration, hence the old-looking rust and the missing hatches and gun, etc. Regardless of how it came to be in a field in Ukraine, the vehicle, if it is a real Panzer IV, is actually very valuable, worth somewhere between $2 and $3 million to collectors interested in restoring it to its pre-1945 specifications. I'd be very interested to read your comments on this one below. Should be a lively discussion. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.